Namaskar and welcome viewers. I am Surbhi Unyal. I teach philosophy at Hansraj College, University of Delhi. So today we are going to discuss philosophy of mind, and specifically we will be talking about Descartes' mind-body dualism. So before starting with Descartes' mind-body dualism, it is important to first talk about what is philosophy, what are the topics or what are the theories that we do in philosophy of mind, and what are the problematic questions that we deal with in philosophy of mind. So philosophy of mind is a branch of philosophy that studies the ontology and the nature of mind and its relationship with the body. It investigates the nature of mind, mental events, mental functions, and consciousness. It aims to understand the relationship between mind and the brain. It's very important that we make a distinction here between mind and the brain, because often in our day-to-day life we often use these terms interchangeably. But in philosophy, we need to make this distinction between mind and the brain, where mind is something which is mental, while brain is something which is seen as physical. Though as we will proceed in our lecture today, we will see that there are philosophers who see mind and brain as equivalent, or who sees mind also to be physical, and hence they use these two terms interchangeably. But we need to examine whether mind and brain are the same or whether they are different. So this is what we study in philosophy of mind, and various theories, they have given different theories on how they see mind, whether it is something which is purely mental or something which is even physical, or something which is identical to the brain. So it aims to understand the relationship between mind and the brain, and how mental processes such as perception, emotion, reasoning, and memory are related to the physical processes in the brain. Now, what are the central questions that we deal with in philosophy of mind? So there are certain problematic questions that we often deal with in philosophy of mind, and the manner in which philosophers, how they answer these questions will give us various theories of philosophy of mind. So the first question that comes up is, what is the relationship between mind and the body? Can mental events be reduced to physical events in the brain, or are they fundamentally different? How do mental states like beliefs, desires, intentions are related to the physical world? So, how are these issues, or how are these topics answered by various philosophers? Give us various theories in philosophy of mind. Another important questions are, what is the nature of mental causation, and how do mental events cause physical events in the brain and the body? So that again is very important question, because the issue of causation is very central here, where we are trying to examine how mental causation, how it can produce a physical event. Since if we are saying that mental and physical are different, or mind is something which is mental, how can a mental event then cause a physical event in the brain or the body? If they are identical, then it becomes easier for us to establish that they can cause physical events as well. But if mind is seen as mental, then how can it cause a physical event in the brain or the body? Another question is, what is the nature of consciousness and subjective experiences? So how do we examine mental phenomena like free will, moral responsibility, and personal identity? So, see, again, if we try to analyze the question of the nature of consciousness or the subjective experiences, in order to answer that, or in answering that, we will be able to come up to the theories of the idea of free will, or how we can establish moral responsibility. So in order to answer these central issues in philosophy of mind, various theories have been offered. Now talking about what is the relationship between mental events and physical events. Since, as we had mentioned earlier, consciousness again is a central issue that we deal in philosophy of mind, and you might have also have an idea that even in Indian philosophy there have been explicit theories about the nature of consciousness. Various theories of consciousness have been mentioned in Indian philosophy. If you talk about Vedant philosophy or Sankhya philosophy or any other school of Indian philosophy, they have given various theories of consciousness. Even in the Western philosophy, you can find various theories on consciousness. And these theories on consciousness and the subjective experiences, they tell us how an action has to be performed from a subjective point of view. Because the idea that we had just mentioned earlier in the central questions, that it also tells us the idea of free will. Since free will allows a person to perform a free action, where a person can consciously or through the subjective experiences and subjective introspection choose various actions. So these theories help us in understanding such questions, even about the responsibility and also about free will. Now coming to, as I was mentioning to you, about the relationship between mental events and physical events. So mental events are things like belief, desire, intentions, and emotions. So physical events are events that occur in the physical world, such as brain processes and bodily movements. One question is whether mental events can be reduced to physical events or whether they are fundamentally different. So as I had just mentioned that mental events like beliefs, desires, intentions and emotions, these are mental events. Physical events are events that occur in the physical world, or you can say that occur in the body or in the brain. So the question that comes up here is, can we reduce these mental events to the physical events, or are they fundamentally different from each other? So to answer this question, again there are two approaches. The first is the reductionists. Reductionists, they argue that mental events can be explained in terms of physical events. So in a way they are saying that mental events can be reduced to physical events, and hence they are known as reductionists, because they are reducing mental events to the physical events. While non-reductionists, they argue that mental events are irreducible to the physical events. So we cannot reduce the mental events to the physical events. Now the question, after talking about the relationship between mental events and the physical events, the next question that comes up is, about the mental causation. So can mental events cause physical events? So mental causation refers to the idea that mental events can cause physical events in the brain and the body. For example, let's say you had a desire to eat something. So your desire to eat something can cause you to go to the kitchen and get some food. Let's say you wanted to have an ice cream. So your desire to have an ice cream led your body to go to the kitchen and look in the refrigerator whether you have ice cream and whether you can eat it. Let's say you did not have ice cream in your fridge. Then your mental event is going to again cause a physical event in the body, which will lead you to go to the market and maybe buy an ice cream for yourself. So in this way, we can say that there is a mental causation here, which refers again to the idea that mental events can cause a physical event in the body or in the brain. Okay, so but this is not so easy as I had mentioned. It's not so easy to draw this causation. Why? Because it is not clear how a mental event can cause a physical event. Given that mental events seem to be non-physical and physical events seem to be determined by physical laws. This is again a very important point, which states that if we are saying that mind is mental or mind is a mental substance, if it is mental, how can a mental event cause a physical event? Because mind being mental and being non-physical, so to say, if it is non-physical, how can it cause a physical event? Because as we know, physical events are determined by physical laws. By being determined by the physical laws, it states that there is a necessary relationship between two events. So whenever there will be A, there will always be B. That means wherever there is A, it will always lead to an effect B, since they have a necessary physical or you can say necessary law governing them, a law of causation, which is a physical law, and this physical law is determined. So in every situation, A, since they are A is causing B, so in every situation that is going to be the case. So they are determined. But is it the case with human beings as well, or is it the case with the mind? Does a mental event always and necessarily produces a particular event? Is it determined? Is it always determined? If there is a particular situation, will a mind act, or will a mind have a particular physical event in that particular situation at all the times? That's not really the case. It's not always that we are going to act in the similar manner. We might act differently in the same situation, or if there are various people at the same situation, they might act differently because they are each having different mental states. So mind or the mental events are not determined. And that is where, the idea of moral responsibility comes in. If everything would have been determined, then we would never be able to talk about moral responsibility. Because we can always say that, the action that I have done is not really done by me. In fact, it was determined. So that's not really the case. We do have certain free will because our mind can reason and our mind can produce different physical events. And that's how we can talk about moral responsibility as well, because it was not determined and we had free choice to choose between different alternatives that we had. So to say that mental events cause physical events, if we are saying that, it's not so easy to establish, because on the one hand we are saying that mental events are non-physical. So if it is non-physical, how can it produce a physical event? So philosophers have proposed various theories of mental causation, including the token identity theory, which we might be doing in some other lecture, and they try to understand, or they try to answer this question by saying that mind and the brain are identical, and in that manner we can talk about the notion of causation. So understanding the nature of mental causation is important because it helps us in understanding how our mental states can influence our actions and behavior. So that is what I was trying to discuss when I was talking about the notion of free will and determinism, because our mental events can influence our actions and behavior, and we are not acting similar in the same situation. We might act differently because our mind is not governed by the determined physical laws. So we might have different behaviors and different action in different situation or different circumstances. So after talking about that, after talking about some of the theories and some of the important questions that we deal with in philosophy of mind, now comes the question that when did philosophy of mind as a discipline emerged? So it is believed that philosophy of mind as a discipline, it evolved in 20th century. There has been various theories of mind already prevalent in Indian philosophy, or even in the Greek philosophy by Plato, Aristotle and so on. But we will see, as we will proceed in our lecture, that it was in the modern era which began, or you can say where the philosophy of mind can be seen to have begun in the 17th century by the work of philosopher called René Descartes. So if we look at a discipline, so philosophy of mind as a discipline, it might have emerged in 20th century, but this doesn't mean that we did not have theories of mind earlier. There have been various theories. If you can look at Indian philosophy, there has been a lot of mention about manas or antahakarana, and there are theories about philosophy of mind in Indian philosophy, as well as I was telling you earlier, that even in Greek philosophy you can find some traces of various theories of philosophy of mind. But it was by the works of René Descartes, especially in his meditations, that he has elaborately talked about the relationship between mind and the body. So we often say that it is because of the work of René Descartes from whom we can say that philosophy of mind is emerged, or you can say was influenced by the work of René Descartes. So Descartes has elaborately posited the existence of non-physical mind or soul that interacted with the physical body. So it was Descartes who had, as again and again I am repeating, that he was the one who elaborately talked about this relationship between mind and the body and how they interact with each other. So the primary question that philosophy of mind as a discipline, it tries to answer are, what is the nature of mind and how does mind have an independent status, or whether the mind has an independent status apart from the body. So this answer again can be traced back to Descartes' metaphysics, who argued for two distinct substances, which are mental and the physical substances. So Descartes basically was the one who gave this dualism, which is known as substance dualism, where he is trying to make a distinction between two types of substances. And all the theories of philosophy of mind are seen as responding to Descartes by either accepting it or rejecting it. So thus it has continued to inspire debates about the nature of mind and its relationship to the physical world. So Descartes, since he had proposed this elaborate theory on philosophy of mind, or the relationship, I would say, between mind and the body, he has influenced various debates even today. So even now you can see various philosophers who are accepting Descartes' mind-body dualism. There are some who are rejecting the mind-body dualism, while there are some who are giving new additions to mind-body dualism. In fact, there is a very recent theory, which is the extended mind theory, which in fact is a response to Cartesian mind-body dualism and the problem that was created by Descartes when he is proposing this distinction, clear-cut distinction between the mental and the physical. So the point here is that Descartes has, since ages, he has influenced the various theories and debates in philosophy of mind, and even today it continues to be one of the important influences. Now let us talk about various factors for the rise of philosophy of mind as a discipline. As just mentioned, that philosophy of mind as a discipline, it emerged in the 20th century. We will now discuss that what were the factors that led to the rise of this discipline as an independent discipline in philosophy. So the emergence of philosophy of mind as an important discipline, it arose in the 20th century due to several factors. The first one is the rise of science and technology in 20th century created a demand for understanding the nature of mind and consciousness and even cognition. So as we are seeing around us that the technology is increasing at a wide range and it is advancing at a very fast speed. This advancement in technology is also raising questions in philosophy. And in philosophy, due to this rise in science and technology, we are led to raise questions about artificial intelligence. This artificial intelligence, which is now as intelligent as human beings, and being as intelligent as human beings, can we say that they do have minds like human beings? This is a very important question that we are dealing with. So we need to make a distinction between human beings and artificial intelligence, and in doing that we realized that it is important to talk about the theory of mind, which is in a way an essential characteristic of a human being, which makes it distinct from artificial intelligence, because human beings are the ones who have mind. So we'll stop here and we'll just get back in few minutes.